Please join me in Gassho. When we reflect on the establishment of the vow, we find that the Tathagata, without abandoning sentient beings in pain and affliction, has taken the directing of virtue to them as foremost, thus fulfilling the mind of great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, 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 Namanda. Hello! Thank you very much for having me at today's service. For many years, I have attended this service every month, but this is my first time to attend this service as an online speaker. So actually, I was thinking of how I could skip today's service because I didn't want to share my English on social media. But now, here I am. I have accepted my fate. Although my English is not perfect, I would like to try to share my Dharma talk in English as much as possible. First, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ryoei NANJO. I am currently working under my father at Hojuji Buddhist Temple, located right next to where we are today, the Tsukiji Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. I know everyone, and everyone knows me. So yes, no privacy at all. I was raised here in Tsukiji, Tokyo until high school, and then I moved to Kyoto to pursue my undergraduate degree, and then continued on to my graduate degree in Shin Buddhism at Ryukoku University. During my studies in 2011, I lived in Berkeley, California as an exchange student, attending the Institute of Buddhist Studies. Come to think of it, that's almost 10 years ago. How time flies. It also means my English is getting worse and worse and worse. And today, I would like to talk about Amida Buddha's great compassion. Jodo Shinshu is the teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, which was handed down through the religious understanding of Shinran Shonin. The teaching of Shinran Shonin was advocated to listening to Amida Buddha's primal vow. When I talk about the vow, there is one thing that comes to my mind. It is a difference in the way you visit Jodo Shinshu temples and shrines. When you visit shrines, you will clap your hands twice and bow like this. While doing so, people make wishes or pray to God. In Japan, we generally pray for Mubyo Sokusai, which means good health. So at Shinto shrines, we either pray to God to make their wishes come true, or to have their worries taken away. However, at Jodo Shinshu temples, it's not the same. We do not pray to God or Buddha to make our wishes and vows come true. Rather, we go there to listen to the primal vow of Amida Buddha. So it is a total opposite. It is not for us to make the vow, but the vow is sent from Amida Buddha towards us. Therefore, we listen to Amida Buddha's primal vow, Amida Buddha's compassionate vow, established for us. Now, I would like to share a sentence of the passage of Shinran Shonin's writings that I read at the beginning, which goes like this. When we reflect on the establishment of the vow, it shows that Shinran Shonin does not pray to Buddhas, but he reflects on Amida Buddha's vow. That is of great importance in Jodo Shinshu, because it is a teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha as it was handed down through the religious understanding of Shinran Shonin. Guided by his teachings, I listen to the primal vow of Amida Buddha. So what is Amida Buddha's vow? Let me share with you Shinran Shonin's teachings. We find that the Tathagata, without abandoning sentient beings in pain and affliction. The word sentient beings means that human beings are creatures that suffer and feel pain. Shinran Shonin told us, we humans are in pain and affliction. I would now like to focus on this reality. Among Buddha's ideas, there is a teaching that says life is suffering. In general, that sounds negative and pessimistic. But it is not just all negative. It tells us the reality of human life. As you may know, there are a lot of gaps between ideal and reality in our world. Have you ever felt that everything is going against you? Sometimes you have difficulties with human relationships. Sometimes you fail at work. Or sometimes you lose your loved ones or family. Everything doesn't go as well as we want it to be. Let me show you an example. This is SpongeBob. SpongeBob is an extremely energetic and optimistic sea sponge, although his appearance resembles more like a kitchen sponge. He lives in a pineapple house under the sea. When I came to know the character when I was in junior high school, I often played with kids at the temple using SpongeBob. And then one of the kids, a 6 or 7-year-old boy, gazed at SpongeBob and said, "I want to live in a pineapple house like him." As soon as he said that, everybody started laughing because it was obvious that we cannot live under the sea in the pineapple house. Because humans cannot breathe in the water. But because we laughed, the child suddenly started to cry. For him, it was a serious matter. And I realized that it was his gap between ideal and reality. Now, let me share you my own story. When I was in junior high school, I belonged to a tennis club. I practiced hard every day because my tennis coach was very strict. Although I started off as a beginner, I dreamed of becoming the #1 in Japan. By the last summer of junior high school, I was able to win first prize at the national tennis tournament of team competition in Japan. I was very happy, and many friends made a big fuss over me. I became conceited because their praises had puffed me up. However, gradually the fuss began to calm down. That made me sad because I thought if I achieved that goal, I would attain happiness that would last for a long time. But after winning the game, a feeling of pain and suffering was what remained within myself. I didn't see that coming. One day, I listened to a Dharma talk at the temple. The message was about Buddha's teaching of life is suffering. To be honest, I couldn't understand the entire teaching at the time. But at least I realized that no matter how much I did my best to achieve my goals, life sometimes goes against my ideals. Everything won't go as well as I want it to be. Even though I accomplished my goal, I wasn't satisfied. Only my ego remained. It was an experience that gave me a chance to learn something about reality. You each may have experienced something that has led you to come to know a similar reality in your lives. Your suffering will remain even if you achieved your goals. Also, another reality we can't escape from is death. Everybody dies. Life is finite. There are unchangeable and inescapable realities for all human beings. Let me continue to share my own story of my junior high school life. After I won first prize, my friend died from arrhythmia. That's when a heart failure. It beats abnormally. He belonged to my tennis club. At the time, I had never experienced death of somebody so close to me. I didn't know what to do. After I heard about his death, I went to his house right away. When I got there, I saw him there, lying. My friends were already sitting around him. For some time, we cried around him. While crying, what we said was, "Why did you have to die? Why did he die?" If I think back calmly, it was because of his heart failure. At the time, we all knew that as a fact. But still, I couldn't understand his death, even though I understood the cause of his death. We could only repeat, why did he have to die? I knew deep down that all who are born are bound to die. But my desire to hope for the opposite was deeply rooted within myself. I felt an overwhelming pain and suffering. As I look back now, I feel that this situation was just as Shinshu said, sentient beings in pain and affliction. Shinshu told me that this is suffering because I live with pain and affliction. Amida Buddha never abandons people like me in pain and affliction. That is Amida Buddha's vow. So why does it work? It's because we exist. As long as we exist, Amida's vow will continue to work. When we reflect on the vow, we will see that Amida will not abandon sentient beings in pain and affliction. So how does Amida Buddha save us? Shinshu said, we find that the Tathagata has taken the directing of virtue to them as foremost. Amida Buddha sends unconditional virtue towards us in the form of Namo Amida Butsu. The chant or a Nembutsu called Namo Amida Butsu is in itself the virtue that we will be born in the Pure Land and attain Buddhahood at the end of our lives. When I hear Namo Amida Butsu through my own voice or through yours, I feel the workings of Amida's primal vow, that it is not abandoning us. Amida cannot be separated from us. Amida is with us in our lives in the form of Namo Amida Butsu. It is like the seasons. Right now, the season is changing. It's getting warmer. In Japanese, we say, Atsusa samusa mo higan made. It is a Japanese idiom that means the cold of winter lasts until the spring equinox, and the heat of summer comes by the autumnal equinox and will become easier to bear. As I stood outside the balcony this morning, I felt a hot breeze brushing my cheeks. I felt that the hot season is coming soon. Come to think of it, we cannot see the season. But even though things cannot be seen, they exist. We can feel the presence of the season through the hot breeze. The workings of Amida Buddha is the same thing. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. When I hear Namo Amida Butsu through my voice or your voice, I feel the workings of Amida's primal vow. In everyday life, it is not easy for me to keep feeling the workings of Amida Buddha's vow. But when I recite Namo Amida Butsu, I can easily feel it. Amida cannot be separated from us. Amida is with us in our lives in the form of Namo Amida Butsu. The workings of Amida will not abandon us. Next, I would like to talk about the meaning of the phrase, without abandoning. It is a great compassion. Shinshu revealed that when you do not abandon great compassion, is the mind within the working of Amida's vow. And here we are, today's topic has appeared. Thus fulfilling the mind of great compassion. Amida has attained the mind of great love and great compassion. Great compassion means that Amida undertakes my sufferings, like your suffering is my suffering. Amida's great compassion is to understand the pains and afflictions of others. No matter how painful my life is, Amida will undertake my suffering. Back in 2011, when I used to live in Berkeley, California as an exchange student, attending the Institute of Buddhist Studies, my life didn't work out very well. For example, the language problem was serious. The local native English speakers talked really fast, so I couldn't follow at all what they were saying. I needed to make an effort. I decided to try to make an American friend. When I was in class, I ventured to speak to classmates. However, their conversations were yet again very fast. So what I did was to put on a fake smile. The more I put on a fake smile, the more I felt isolated. And I thought, I want to go back to Japan. At the time, one person showed great care and concern. She was a Japanese American and a student at IBS, and we lived in the same dorm. She took care of me all the time. When I caught a cold, she gave me medicine. When I was late for school, she drove me to school. When I struggled with my English homework, she would do it for me. So one day, I asked her, "Why are you so nice to me?" And she said, "When I look at you, you look like a baby, so I can't leave you alone." She was born in the United States, and her grandparents were Japanese, and her family speaks Japanese, and they live in a Japanese cultural community. But she was an American, and she was not comfortable. She had been experiencing language barriers and cultural barriers ever since she was born. Then, suddenly, a boy who doesn't speak English nor understands the American culture appeared in front of her. When I struggled with the language and cultural barriers, she probably empathized with me. That was not just a kind action. It was compassion derived from her own experience. thanks to her support, I got through Berkeley. We rarely see each other now, but as I speak now, I want to express my gratitude to her once again. Through her thoughts and actions, I can feel a part of Amida's great compassion. As it is said, Amida's great compassion is your suffering is my suffering. Amida has always understood my suffering more than anyone and had never abandoned me. Let me share with you in a poem written by Misuzu Kaneko, a Japanese poet and songwriter. One of her poems is called The Sad Times. When I'm feeling sad, strangers don't know. When I'm feeling sad, my friends all laugh. When I'm feeling sad, Mama spoils me. When I'm feeling sad, Buddha feels sad. I would like to focus on the last phrase. When I'm feeling sad, Buddha feels sad. I think that in this poem, Mrs. Kaneko had expressed Amida Buddha's great compassion. There was one Jodo Shinshu member in his 70s who had told me something very important. I am over 70 years old now, and I am still alive. I have learned a lot so far. There were days when I had fun, and days when I experienced sadness. But I finally realized that no one can completely understand my feelings. Even my family or my wife, they cannot understand completely the depth of my suffering. If so, I am alone. I will never be able to escape the pain and suffering my whole life. But yet, I am actually not alone. Although no one would know my entire feelings, Amida Buddha understands my suffering when I recite the Nembutsu. Amida Buddha is with me. I will never be alone. Amida Buddha knows our pains and affliction, such as sadness and loneliness, more than anyone. Through listening to the compassionate calling of Amida Buddha and reciting the Nembutsu, I feel the working of Amida's vow that knows my suffering and would never abandon me. Lastly, I would like to conclude my Dharma message. Jodo Shinshu is the teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, as it was handed down through the religious understanding of Shinran. His teachings revealed that it is essential to listening to the primal vow of Amida Buddha. Guided by his teachings, I listened to the primal vow of Amida Buddha. Shinran revealed that when we reflect on the establishment of the vow, we find that the Tathagata, without abandoning sentient beings in pain and affliction, has taken the directing of virtue to them as foremost, thus fulfilling the mind of great compassion. The Buddha tells us that life is suffering, a reality of life in which we live by, and our true ego and ignorance is exposed. But Amida Buddha's vow does not abandon us in suffering, and his wishes to save us from this world of suffering. Buddha's teaching is a timeless reality. He sees that suffering is just the way things are and wants to rescue people from the illusion and delusion. The way to live with our suffering in Jodo Shinshu is to accept the reality of our lives. When I hear Namo Amida Butsu through your voice or my own voice, I feel the workings of Amida's primal vow, that it is not abandoning us. It is any time and anywhere in our lives. that we can feel the workings of Amida Buddha through Namo Amida Butsu. Your suffering is my suffering. This is how Amida undertakes our sufferings. Amida's great compassion is to understand the pains and afflictions of others. No matter how painful our lives could be, Amida will undertake the sufferings. We are granted precious lives, and at the end, we will be born in the pure end and attain Buddhahood. Thank you very much for listening to my Dharma message. I would like to thank all of you for your attendance today. And I really appreciate you for giving me the opportunity to share my Dharma message in English. I hope to see you again in person in the future. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda.